Atlanta International Airport doesn't really sleep, not even on a rain-soaked Tuesday evening. The hum of travelers, the echo of wheelie bags on polished concrete, the crackle of voices on the loudspeaker, all blend into a kind of restless, unyielding music. But Lauren Matthews moves through it like she's learned to breathe underwater. Eyes sharp, shoulders set, one hand steady on the leash of her partner. Ranger, her German shepherd, is an odd fit for the badge he wears. Too big, too watchful. His sable coat catches every bit of passing light, and his tail barely twitches even as toddlers reach to touch his fur. He's known for being gentle with children, cautious with crowds, and, when it counts, utterly relentless. Sensitive, the last department called him, as if it was an insult. Lauren calls it instinct. She's seen it before, the kind of animal that picks up things people never say. It's what makes Ranger the only partner she trusts. After a decade in law enforcement, and a transfer she never asked for. Trauma, they called it, but no one asked for the details. At gate 17, Ranger halts so suddenly the leash tightens in Lauren's palm. For a split second, everything in her body locks up. He stares, fixes, on a woman standing near the boarding line. 3 children cluster around her. The woman, mid-30s, hair pulled back so tight it makes her look younger, keeps glancing at the departure screen, tickets clutched in her hand. But her feet don't move. One of the kids, a boy, no older than 5, fidgets, biting at his sleeve. The 2 girls with him, maybe 7 and 9, stand too quietly for children in a crowded airport. Lauren feels her pulse quicken. It isn't the crowd. It's Ranger, suddenly taut, ears pointed, gaze drilling through bodies and noise. She crouches beside him, voice low. What is it? He's rigid, nose flaring, eyes locked on the family. Lauren follows his line of sight, careful. The way she's learned to do since Ranger started teaching her to listen. The crowd shuffles. The woman's grip on the tickets tightens. Her lips move, but she doesn't speak to the children. She keeps glancing at the big clock overhead, then down at her phone, then, always, at the nearest exit. The boy looks up, sees Ranger. For a moment, everything freezes between them. Boy, dog, woman, cop. The child takes a step closer to the dog. Not quite touching, but near enough that Lauren sees his hand tremble. In his eyes, not just fear, but something heavier. Something that doesn't belong to a child. Ranger's tail flicks once, slow, like a question. Lauren straightens. Her own hands remember another time. A door, a siren, a mistake she couldn't take back. She breathes through it. Now. Only now. She approaches, moving through the line, gently, quietly. Ma'am? Her voice is calm, softer than usual. Are you headed for Denver? The woman startles. The tickets slip in her hand. Yes. Flight's delayed again, she says. Her smile flickers, too bright, but doesn't reach her eyes. Ranger plants himself in the family's path. He doesn't bark, doesn't move. Just stares up at the woman and the children, body blocking the way forward, unblinking. Lauren bends slightly, angling her body between the woman and the exit. The kids seem a little upset, she says, eyes scanning the girl's scuffed shoes, the way the boy keeps glancing at the glass doors. Long day? A pause. The children look at each other, then at the woman, then at Ranger. No one says anything. The silence swells, fills the space between breaths. Suddenly, the youngest, still trembling, reaches for Ranger's fur. Just a handful, as if to anchor himself, or maybe just to ask for help without a word. Ranger doesn't move. He lets the boy's fingers curl into his ruff, It's a silent alarm, clearer than any shout. Lauren kneels, meeting the boy's gaze. "Hey there. You like dogs?" Her words barely register. The boy just nods, jaw clenched. Behind them, the loudspeaker announces another gate change. The woman's eyes flick to the exit again, then back to Lauren. "We're just tired," she says, voice thin. "It's been a long trip." Ranger doesn't budge. Lauren's heart is hammering now, but her voice stays level. "Would you mind showing me your boarding passes, ma'am? And maybe the kids?" A hesitation. Just a flicker. I need to find our bags," the woman says, stepping back, pulling the kids closer. Ranger moves, blocking her way. The children freeze. Lauren puts a hand on her radio just in case. "Ma'am, please, this won't take long." The woman looks down, calculating. Then, for the briefest second, her eyes meet Lauren's. There's a silent plea, or maybe a threat, but it passes in a heartbeat. Lauren's own memories rush up. The face of a girl she couldn't save. A day that ended with a slammed door and a promise broken. She breathes. "You're safe," she says. Not to the woman, but to the kids, to herself, to the ghost she can't shake. The crowd swells, blurring around them. For a moment, it feels as if the airport, the noise, the ache of old failure, all have pressed pause. Only the boy's hand, clutching Ranger's fur, grounds them in the now. This is the moment, Lauren knows. The one she can't let slip away. Her eyes meet Ranger's. He stands steady, as if to say, "Stay." She does. And somewhere inside that hush, hope glimmers. A child, barely breathing, reaching out not for escape, but for rescue. The hush of that first moment never lasts in an airport. The world outside Gate 17 snaps back into noise. Overhead calls, rolling suitcases, a child's wail echoing from a distant Starbucks. But Lauren barely hears it. She's locked in. Her focus narrowed to the trembling boy still gripping Ranger's fur, the way the woman's shoulders tense as if she's waiting for a break in the clouds. "Ma'am, I need you to stay where you are," Lauren says, voice measured. Her badge is visible and her body blocks the exit. The woman doesn't answer. Her knuckles whiten around the children's wrists. A pause too long, as Lauren waits for a sign, any sign, that she's wrong. But Ranger's body is a living wire, muscles coiled, eyes never leaving the woman's face. A sound, sudden, sharp. Not a shout, just the scrape of a shoe as the woman bolts, dragging the smallest child by the arm. The two girls stumbling after. For 1 second, time fractures. Lauren shouts, "Stop!" But the woman's already gone, weaving through the crowd, past a line of college students hunched over their phones. Ranger surges forward, leash tight in Lauren's hand, not barking, just moving with the certainty of a creature who knows the difference between confusion and danger. Lauren runs, the radio at her shoulder crackling as she calls in a code. Possible child abduction in progress. Terminal C. The airport erupts. Passengers scatter, some ducking instinctively, others stopping to film on their phones. The blare of an alarm goes up as the woman barrels toward a locked emergency exit. Red lights flash, a siren spins, and security doors begin to close automatically. The children's cries, thin, frightened, muffled, rise above the din. Lauren is close now, Ranger at her side, weaving through a knot of travelers who flatten themselves against the wall. The woman yanks at the exit door, which won't budge. Her breath fogs in the fluorescent light, her eyes darting, wild. The children cower behind her, pressed into the cold metal. Ranger moves in first, body low, hackles slightly raised but posture controlled. He plants himself between the children and the woman, head turned so both are in his line of sight. The woman sags to her knees, sobs shaking her chest, mascara running in streaks down her face. Her words tumble out in broken sentences. I'm sorry, I had no choice. But she doesn't look at Lauren, only at the children, whose faces have gone still as river stones. Lauren approaches, heart pounding, every muscle remembering her own childhood, locked doors, voices raised, the thick silence after. You're safe now, she says, eyes fixed on the kids, not the woman. Nobody's going to hurt you. Airport security arrives, 3 officers in dark jackets fanning out, voices overlapping. Lauren holds up a hand, quiet but commanding. These children are not with their legal guardian. Call for paramedics. Notify child services. Her voice is firmer now, trained to cut through chaos. She kneels slowly, careful not to startle the boy still shaking so badly he can barely speak. He won't let go of Ranger's fur, as if the world will spin out from under him if he does. The girls huddle behind their brother, watching Lauren with the hollow-eyed vigilance of kids who've learned adults don't always help. Ranger shifts, pressing against the boy's legs, anchoring him with quiet weight. The smallest girl, her hair falling in her eyes, reaches out to touch his flank. For a moment, neither child says a word. They don't need to. Lauren glances at the woman, now crumpled, head down, hands open as if surrender could undo what's been done. She doesn't fight as the officers cuff her, doesn't speak when they read her rights, only looks at the children with something like apology in her face. She lets herself be led away, the echo of her weeping trailing behind. Lauren stands, her own legs shaking, and picks up the woman's abandoned purse. It's heavy, unzipped, its contents spilled. A handful of fake IDs, driver's licenses from states that don't match the tickets in the woman's name. A slip of paper, torn at the edge, covered in names, most of them children's. Flight numbers. Dates, tonight, tomorrow, next week. She feels the old ache, the one that sits beneath her ribs on nights when she can't sleep. The memory of every case that almost slipped through her fingers. Ranger whines softly, as if he too remembers. A paramedic arrives, checks the children's vitals, their hands, their faces for signs of injury. The boy won't answer questions, but nods when asked if he's hurt. The girls say nothing, only watch Lauren and Ranger with the exhausted silence of children who have run out of things to say. It isn't over, not by a long shot. Lauren looks down at the slip of paper, at the faces of the children, at Ranger, who sits now with all 3 pressed close against his side. The air is sharp with adrenaline and the heavy scent of jet fuel drifting in from the tarmac. Somewhere beyond the crowd, the airport returns to its own business. Boarding calls, lost luggage, the click of heels on tile. But in this corner, time is still suspended. The kids clutch Ranger's fur, their eyes closing for just a moment, their bodies softening. They are safe, at least for now. Lauren lets out a breath she didn't know she was holding. She catches Ranger's gaze, in the space between their eyes, an unspoken promise. We don't let go. Not now. Not ever. Outside, the night deepens over Atlanta. The airport's neon glare painting the runways in restless color. But inside, for these few hearts huddled together in Terminal C, there is a fragile circle of peace. A place where no one is left behind, and where hope, for a little while, holds. There are rooms in every airport the public never sees. Fluorescent light, gray paint, the hum of ventilation that makes everything feel 2 shades colder than outside. Lauren sits on one side of the glass, silent, watching through a thin film of her own fatigue as the scene unfolds. On the other side, Emily Walker, her real name they learned, sits hunched, knuckles pressed to her lips, trembling in a chair that's too large for her small frame. The 3 children are in the care of social workers now, each holding a stuffed animal, clean clothes on their backs, sipping juice through paper straws. Ranger lies nearby, body stretched out, head on paws, a silent shadow in the bright break room. Every so often, one of the kids drifts from their seat, sits beside him, fingers curling into his fur as if checking that he's real. Lauren's world has always been built on observation, how people shrink from the truth, how a child's shoulders flinch at a slammed door, how a woman's hands shake after holding in too much for too long. Now she watches Emily, a woman who ran, who lied, who sobbed in surrender, and Lauren sees the jagged shape of something too familiar in the way she crumbles. A detective, older, face marked by a life of midnight shifts, asks gentle questions. Emily's answers come out in broken waves. I'm not their mother. I never wanted to hurt them. I was just supposed to watch them, get them to the next city. Each admission makes her smaller. The detective slides a box of tissues across the table. Emily doesn't reach for it, just lets the tears fall, soaking the sleeves of her sweater. Lauren is not supposed to get involved, but rules have always sat strangely on her shoulders, especially where children are concerned. She remembers being 8, hiding under a table, knees bruised, breath tight, praying someone would see her, really see her. She remembers the ache of being powerless, the hush after the storm, the feeling of being too small for rescue. The evidence grows. The list of names found in Emily's bag is now cross-referenced with missing persons alerts. Most of the children have stories already too heavy for their years. The officers talk in low tones. Words like trafficking network, ringleader, new routes, passing over the room like winter wind. Emily shakes every time she hears a new name, and at last, she looks up and speaks, her voice raw. I was trying to save them. She says the words like a prayer, like she needs someone, anyone, to believe her. Lauren steps into the room, not as an interrogator, but as someone who's carried wounds in the shape of childhood. She pulls up a chair, silent for a while. The old detective lets her, slipping away without a word. There's a moment where only Ranger's breath, slow and steady, keeps the silence from breaking apart. Why did you run? Lauren's voice is low, stripped of accusation. Emily's eyes dart toward the glass. I thought if I got them to Claire, they'd be safe. I didn't know. She trails off, the rest caught in her throat. Lauren waits. Sometimes, silence is the only invitation a person can accept. They said if I didn't cooperate, they'd hurt my sister. They knew everything about me, about all of us. Emily's words spill out, halting, then faster. I wanted to leave, but they said I was in too deep, that I owed them. I just wanted to get the kids away. Lauren listens, because that's the only thing she can offer. She thinks of every mistake she's ever made, every small betrayal to survive. She thinks of the first time she heard Ranger whine at a child, signaling something deeper than fear, a longing to be rescued, to be seen. You did the right thing, coming clean, Lauren says at last, soft as a lullaby. The kids are safe now. We'll protect your sister too, but you have to help us stop them. Emily sags, relief and grief tangling together on her face. Out in the break room, the children sit close to Ranger, The smallest girl, hair tangled in sleep, draws a picture of the dog, big, brown, gentle, with 3 stick figures holding onto his back. She colors a sun above his head, then hands the page to Lauren when she returns. For him. He saved us, she whispers. Lauren feels something crack open in her chest, something she's held together with willpower and duty for years. She kneels, accepting the picture, meeting the child's gaze with a gentleness she doesn't always remember to give herself. "Thank you," she says, the words weighted with everything she cannot say. The children stay close, their small bodies pressing into Ranger's warmth. Their eyes tracking Lauren's every move. She offers water, sits with them as they eat, lets them braid Ranger's fur with pieces of ribbon torn from hospital wristbands. In the quiet, something shifts, a measure of trust, thin as a thread, but real. The children begin to talk, in snatches and whispers. They tell Lauren about the places they've seen, the rules they learned to obey, the stories they invented to keep each other company in the dark. Hours pass. The airport outside keeps moving. Oblivious. Planes take off, land, carry strangers away from the pain that gathers in back rooms and quiet corners. But here, in the afterglow of chaos, Lauren and Ranger stay. They are still and present, and enough. The detective returns. "We've traced the list. There are more kids in danger, tonight. Flights out of Gate 41, private hangars. We need to move." His eyes are tired, but there's something urgent in his posture. Lauren stands, the drawing still clutched in her hand. She looks down at the children, hair mussed, faces streaked, clutching at Ranger as if he's an anchor. "You're safe," she repeats, more to herself than them. She gives the drawing to Ranger, who lets it rest beside his paw. In that quiet, a kind of hope takes root. Not the big, loud hope of rescue, but the small, silent kind. The kind that comes from being seen, from a gentle hand on your shoulder, from the promise that you will not be left behind. And in the hall outside, beneath the dull buzz of airport lights, Lauren squares her shoulders. She's ready to go back into the dark. This time, she's not alone. It's almost midnight in the airport, a place built for movement now holding its breath. Beyond the glass walls, planes are lined like sleeping giants on the tarmac, their lights flickering against a sky the color of old steel. Inside, the world grows quieter, each footstep muted by fatigue and waiting. Lauren sits in the corner of a staff break room, shoulders bowed beneath the ache of too many hours, too many hard truths. Her uniform jacket is slung over the back of a cracked vinyl chair. There's no coffee left in the pot, just the smell of burnt grounds and the dull chill of air conditioning, always set a little too high. Ranger lies at her feet, head resting on his paws, body curled so the children can reach him easily. His eyes half closed in the glow of fluorescent lights, but he does not sleep. Every so often, his tail thumps as a small hand finds its way to his fur. The youngest child, a girl 4 or maybe 5, with cheeks still round from babyhood, leans against him, thumb in her mouth, eyes glazed with exhaustion. The boy sits nearby, silent, tracing invisible lines on the tile with one socked foot. Lauren watches them, her own body a map of quiet aches, an old bruise on her shoulder, the tightness at the base of her neck, the invisible scars of memory that never seem to soften. She remembers nights spent huddled behind locked doors, listening for footsteps in the hall. She remembers learning to read danger in the pauses between adult voices. Sometimes, even now, she feels 8 years old again, too small, too quiet, waiting for someone to see her. But here, Now she chooses presence. She offers the children water, finds a half-eaten pack of crackers in her bag, arranges them on a napkin with slow, careful hands. The oldest girl, her hair a tangled mess, sits cross-legged, shoulders tight as if bracing for something she can't name. Lauren passes her a juice box, their fingers brushing. The girl flinches, then accepts. Across the table, a tired caseworker murmurs into a phone, updating someone about their status, her voice gentle but strained. No one says much. Words are fragile here, and too many would only shatter what little calm they've managed to gather. The children begin to relax, just a little. The youngest draws close to Ranger, burying her face in his ruff. The boy, emboldened by the dog's steady breathing, edges nearer. Ranger lifts his head, nudges the boy's hand with his nose, and for the first time that night, the boy smiles. A quick, shy flash, gone almost before it arrives. Lauren looks on, silent. She has learned the value of these small gestures, the sharing of a cracker, the slow weaving of hair into Ranger's thick fur, the trust it takes to reach out when you've been taught to expect nothing in return. The oldest girl begins to braid a thin piece of blue ribbon, torn from her own hospital wristband, into Ranger's coat. She is careful, her fingers moving with more purpose than play. When she finishes, she tucks the end beneath the fur, as if hiding a secret only she and the dog will ever share. Lauren's phone buzzes with a new alert. Evidence from the slip of paper, the list found in Emily's bag, has pointed investigators to 2 outbound flights leaving within the hour. More children, more lives balanced on the edge of a departure board. The urgency seeps back in, filling the cracks left by a moment's calm. She stands, stretching the stiffness from her legs, and moves to the window. The glass is cold beneath her palm. She watches as a crew moves luggage from one cart to another, oblivious to the storm brewing inside these walls. Somewhere in the distance, an overhead voice calls for final boarding. Behind her, the children sit quietly, drawing pictures with borrowed markers. The youngest draws a sun, a plane, and, at the center, a big, brown dog with a badge around his neck. The boy draws 3 stick figures and a dog in a field of green, the sky an improbable, hopeful blue. The oldest girl, when finished, folds her paper carefully and slips from her seat. She walks to Lauren, wordless, and presses the drawing into her hand. It's Ranger, drawn like a superhero, children clinging to his back as he leads them to safety. Above the image, in careful block letters, "Thank you for saving us." Lauren holds the paper for a long moment. She feels the weight of it, the hope, the gratitude, the belief that someone is watching over them even now. She kneels, placing a hand gently on the girl's shoulder. The girl doesn't pull away. "Can he keep it?" Lauren asks. The girl nods, shy but sure. Lauren tucks the picture beneath Ranger's collar, where it will stay until they both remember what it's like to be carried by hope. The air shifts. The children, a little lighter now, lean into each other, comfort found in proximity and presence. The caseworker's voice softens as she promises, "You're safe. You'll rest soon." Ranger lifts his head, meets Lauren's eyes, and there's something old and knowing in his gaze, an understanding that not all rescue comes in sirens and shouts. Sometimes it's a body on the floor, a tail thumping quietly, the warmth of fur under trembling hands. Lauren stands, shoulders squared. There's work ahead. There always is. But in this small, silent room, hope is alive. A drawing, a ribbon, a braid, a promise. And as she prepares to step back into the noise, the chase, the uncertainty waiting beyond the glass, Lauren takes with her the memory of this quiet, the knowledge that kindness, in its smallest forms, can be the shield that holds a frightened world together. The airport's empty corridors belong to the cleaning crews and the lost now. It's after 1 a.m., and outside the rain has become a cold mist that shrouds the runways, turning every reflection into a ghost. The building seems to settle on its foundations, sighing with the weight of 1,000 stories waiting to take flight. Lauren's steps echo as she walks toward the security office. She moves quietly, not wanting to disturb the fragile peace that Ranger and the children have found. In her pocket, the girl's drawing remains folded, its bright lines pressed flat by the weight of new evidence. A list of names, seat numbers, connecting flights. Every detail becomes a thread, and Lauren knows too well what it feels like to pull the wrong one. A young detective meets her in the hallway. His tie is loose, eyes rimmed red. The network's more complicated than we thought. Another tip just came in. Private hangar, 2 vans, no flight listed on the departure board. ICE and child services are scrambling. We don't know how many kids, or how long we have. Lauren listens. She doesn't offer easy hope. She's learned not to. Instead, she lets her gaze wander over the terminal map, fingers tracing the outer edge of the airfield, the shadowy perimeter road behind the maintenance garages. They always go where no one looks, she says quietly. Ranger falls in beside her as she heads toward the exit. The air outside bites. Rain beads on Ranger's back, darkening his fur. He shakes it off and sets his nose low to the ground, moving with a purpose that belongs to instinct and memory. Every scent, every sound, a possible thread leading to the lost. Lauren scans the line of shuttle buses and catering trucks parked in the shadows. The world out here is different. Engines tick as they cool. Orange lights blink against the dark. Puddles pool beneath the belly of a cargo jet. In the distance, a dog barks once, sharp and far away. A sound behind the catering shed. A small, muffled cry. Ranger stops, head cocked. Ears twitching. Lauren signals for silence, and together they move along the fence line, boots and paws silent on wet gravel. There's movement near the fuel pumps, a van, white and nondescript, engine idling. Lauren presses herself against the wall, watching as 2 men emerge, hoods up, faces blurred by shadow. One carries a clipboard, the other a small child wrapped in a blanket. The child does not struggle. Only the thin line of their feet, dangling above the ground, betrays their size. Lauren's breath catches, a sharp ache in her ribs. She knows this choreography, how fear travels in silence, how children shrink into themselves to stay unseen. She radios for backup, voice low. Code 3, South Hangar. Suspected trafficking in progress. Multiple minors. Suspects armed, uncertain. Approach quietly. She waits. The seconds drag. Ranger's hackles rise, body tense. The van door opens. 2 more children climb in, urged by a third man whose voice is little more than a hiss. The girl at the front hesitates, glances over her shoulder, and for a moment their eyes meet, Lauren's and the child's, a gaze heavy with plea and promise. In the pause, an alarm blares from the main terminal. Someone triggered a silent call. The suspects freeze. One shouts, scrambling to shut the van. The third tries to herd the children back, panic scraping his words. Lauren steps out, voice steady, badge gleaming in the van's headlights. Stop! Hands up, step away from the children. She doesn't shout. It's a command shaped by certainty, not bravado. Ranger stands at her side, unmoving, his presence anchoring the moment. The rain falls harder, drumming against the metal roof, washing everything in a silver haze. For a heartbeat, no one moves. Then one suspect bolts, vaulting the fence. Another drops the clipboard and raises his hands, face slack with shock. The third, caught between choices, hesitates. One hand still on the girl's shoulder. Ranger lets out a single bark, a sharp, clean sound that splits the night. The children flinch but do not run. The last man sags, defeated, and lifts both hands. Airport police descend, radios crackling. Lauren stands back, letting the moment pass through her like a chill. Officers lead the children away, blankets pressed to their shoulders. The youngest boy clings to Ranger's neck, silent tears tracking down his cheeks. The girl who met Lauren's gaze in the dark squeezes her hand before letting herself be guided toward warmth and safety. In the rain-soaked aftermath, Lauren kneels beside Ranger, resting her forehead to his. He leans in, his breath warm on her cheek. There are no words here, no celebration. Only the sound of the rain and the low murmur of exhausted officers, the steady promise of footsteps leading children home. She stands, brushing mud from her knees. She glances toward the terminal, toward the lights and voices of those who will never know how close danger passed. She thinks of the drawing still folded in her pocket, the weight of a child's hope carried through storm and darkness. Tonight, no headlines will carry this rescue. No crowd will cheer. But in a corner of the world where no one thought to look, something was salvaged. A sliver of safety, a measure of trust. It is enough. Lauren takes Ranger's leash, feeling the warmth of him against her side as they walk back toward the glass and light. There will be more nights like this, more darkness, more children who need someone to wait and listen and follow. No matter how tired, how cold, how late the hour. But for now, for these few steps, they walk together, two silhouettes woven into the hush between storms. It is nearly dawn before the last patrol car leaves the edge of the airport. Rain has softened into fog, drifting in low over the tarmac, blurring the yellow lines and swallowing the shapes of distant planes. The world feels weightless, caught between night and morning, the city's heartbeat slow and uncertain. Inside, the fluorescent lights never dim. Lauren sits in an interview room, alone except for the pile of reports before her and the hush that follows every crisis. Her hair is damp, shoes muddy, her uniform jacket draped across her knees. Through the glass, she can see Ranger curled on the tile, pressed into the shadows, one ear flicking at every movement. He has settled himself beside the bench where the children now sleep, bundled in scratchy airport blankets, hair tangled and faces slack with the exhaustion of safety finally granted. One girl clutches a plastic fire truck. The boy sleeps with his cheek pressed to Ranger's side, a ribbon of drool at the corner of his mouth. The smallest, the last to be rescued, has tucked her feet beneath Ranger's chest. He does not move. There are no questions for Lauren now. The other officers are busy, moving paperwork, cataloging evidence, contacting social workers and parents who wake to a ringing phone, hearts caught somewhere between hope and dread. In the silence, Lauren feels the ache return, not just in her bones, but in the spaces where old wounds never fully closed. She lets her head rest in her hands. Every rescue, she knows, is built from 1,000 small decisions. Pauses, glances, the weight of a stranger's gaze, the hand you offer or withhold. Tonight, every choice feels both heavy and provisional. She cannot tell if they made a dent in the darkness or merely held it back for a few fragile hours. Somewhere down the hall, the sound of quiet laughter. A nurse from the airport clinic brings in cocoa and granola bars, laying them gently by the children's heads. "They'll wake hungry," she says, almost to herself. The caseworker's voice is soft. "Thank you. Thank you." Lauren does not rise. She listens, watches, breathes. Outside, the airport stirs, the first travelers stumbling in from the storm, blinking under the bright lights. A family with matching backpacks, a pilot rolling his bag, a cleaner in a pink hoodie humming to herself. Life presses forward as if the night's crisis never happened. Lauren finds herself remembering the smallest details: the slickness of rain on Ranger's coat, the sound of the girl's hand slipping into hers, the way each child's eyes followed Ranger, how, even in sleep, their hands drifted toward his warmth. The world has always been unsteady, she thinks, but sometimes the smallest anchors are enough. She walks to the window, standing between two vending machines. Her reflection is pale, eyes rimmed with fatigue. The rain has left streaks across the glass, refracting the dawn in soft, uncertain patterns. Somewhere, a plane rises into the sky, engines droning like the memory of old promises. Down the corridor, a detective approaches, a woman with silver hair and a coat too thin for the cold. She nods to Lauren, glancing through the glass at Ranger and the children. "You did good," she says simply. Lauren shrugs, not ready for comfort. It's never enough. The detective's reply is a gentle contradiction. "It's what you could do. Sometimes that's what saves someone." She stands there a while, both women quiet, sharing the silence like a blanket against the chill. Eventually, Lauren returns to the bench beside Ranger. The dog lifts his head, blinking slow, tail thumping once. Lauren strokes his neck, her fingers finding the braid of blue ribbon still tangled in his fur. The smallest girl stirs, half awake, then settles again. She thinks of her own childhood, long nights listening for sirens, the clink of a glass, the hush that signaled a bad mood shifting in the dark. She wonders what these children will remember: the fear, the flight, or the quiet safety of a dog who did not move when the world grew too loud. A soft knock at the door. The caseworker holding a clipboard. "We'll be taking them soon," she says, voice apologetic, as if she knows how rare and precious this moment is. "There's a foster family. They're good people. They have a yard and another dog." Lauren nods, unable to find the right words. She kneels and helps the children slip on their jackets. 2 sizes too big, but warm, the sleeves falling past their hands. The boy wipes his nose on his sleeve. The oldest girl tries to smooth her hair. The youngest hugs Ranger's neck with both arms. The caseworker kneels, too, looking each child in the eye. "Ready?" The children nod, clutching their makeshift treasures: the plastic truck, the blue ribbon, a napkin drawing folded in a pocket. Ranger stands as they do, tail wagging gently. The boy looks up at Lauren. "Will he come with us?" Lauren shakes her head, gentle. "He has to stay here, but he'll be waiting if you ever come back." The children hesitate at the door, looking back once, twice. The youngest waves, her hand barely clearing her shoulder. Ranger sits, posture noble, watching them go until they vanish into the morning crowd. Only when the hall is empty does Lauren let her shoulders fall. She buries her hands in Ranger's fur, lets her breath shake out slow. The world beyond the glass is waking, planes roaring into a sky scraped clean by rain, but inside, for a little longer, she lets herself rest. The echoes of the night, fear, hope, survival, linger in the corners. This is how the world repairs itself, she thinks. not in triumph or headlines, but in the small, unnoticed acts of those who choose to stay. It is late morning by the time Lauren finally steps outside, the airport humming with the early rush. People hurry past her, business travelers with coffee, families with tangled bags, a couple bickering softly by the curb. No one looks twice at the mud on her shoes or the dog at her side. In the daylight, the night's crisis seems impossible, a fever dream dissolving in the sun. But Lauren feels it in her bones, every word unsaid, every shadow that lingers after the children are gone. Ranger walks quietly beside her, not pulling, not searching. He glances up every few steps, ears flicking to catch her mood, waiting for a command she never gives. They cut across the main entrance toward the parking garage, past rows of cabs and shuttle buses and the flicker of sunlight on wet asphalt. Near the far curb, a small commotion, a lost suitcase, a crying toddler, a woman on her phone. Lauren registers it as background noise, but Ranger slows, his body alert. He sniffs the wind, then pauses beside an older man sitting on a bench, suitcase at his feet, hands folded as if in prayer. The man looks up, startled by Ranger's attention. His hair's white, coat threadbare. His eyes are a washed-out blue, rimmed by sleeplessness. Lauren's gaze lingers on his badge, a plastic visitor's pass, the name faded. She recognizes the expression in his eyes, the long ache of someone who has been waiting for news too long. "Good dog," the man says, reaching a trembling hand. Ranger allows the touch, leaning in gently. Lauren stands back, letting the moment breathe. The man's voice is low. "You a cop?" Lauren nods, uncertain. "I came for my granddaughter. They said they'd call if they found her." His voice cracks. "I didn't know where else to wait." Lauren sits beside him, not as an officer, but as someone who understands the loneliness of waiting in public places. She thinks of the children in the terminal, of every person who spends their hope in small installments, waiting, watching, praying for rescue. The man looks at her, eyes full of questions. "You ever see them again after?" Lauren considers. "Sometimes. Most times, no. They get moved, given new names, new lives. The ones who come back usually just want to see the dog." He smiles, small and true. "I hope she remembers me." They sit in silence. Ranger curls at the man's feet, a steady, quiet presence. There is a comfort in the ordinary details. The scuff of shoes on concrete, the distant echo of an announcement, the smell of engine oil and fresh rain. People pass without looking, each carrying their own story, their own invisible ache. After a while, Lauren stands. She presses a card into the man's palm, the emergency number handwritten on the back. "If you hear anything, call me. I'll make sure she knows you waited." The man nods, closing his hand around the card as if it's a lifeline. Lauren and Ranger walk on. In the food court, a tired mother pours orange juice into 3 paper cups, hands shaking. 2 small children press their faces to the window, watching planes taxi in the sun. Lauren watches too, remembering the drawings tucked in her pocket, the blue ribbon braided in Ranger's fur. She finds herself lingering at the lost and found window. Inside, a young woman with a tired smile sorts through a bin of stuffed animals, cell phones, keys. She looks up, sees Lauren's badge, nods without a word. Lauren leaves the drawing from the little girl, the one with Ranger as a superhero, on the counter. "For the kids who come back," she says. Outside, the day has brightened. Lauren and Ranger walk the perimeter road, the sun warming the backs of their necks. Every step away from the terminal feels like shedding another layer of fatigue. She walks with no destination now, letting her mind wander, letting the rhythm of Ranger's breathing remind her that the world can be steady, even if only for a little while. Passing the edge of a staff parking lot, she sees two mechanics crouched over a minivan, hands slick with grease. One whistles at Ranger, who wags his tail but doesn't break stride. "He looks like he's been through a lot," the older one calls. Lauren smiles. He has. For a while, she stands by the fence and watches planes lift into the sky, their bellies flashing in the morning light. She thinks of the children, how small they looked in the echoing airport, how big their eyes were, how fiercely they clung to hope when everything else had failed. People will forget, she knows. The news cycle spins, new tragedies push old ones aside, but the marks remain, the ribbon, the drawing, the hand pressed to Ranger's neck, the kindness exchanged between strangers on an ordinary morning. Lauren stands quietly, her shadow stretching long across the concrete. Beside her, Ranger sits, patient and sure. For a moment, nothing hurts. For a moment, there is only the hum of engines, the slow beat of recovery, and the certainty that even the smallest acts, waiting, hoping, letting a child braid a ribbon into a dog's fur, are enough to keep a little light burning against the dark. By afternoon, the airport settles back into its old rhythms, flights delayed, luggage spinning, voices rising and falling with announcements. Lauren is back in the security office, sunlight slipping across the carpet in dusty bars. The window overlooks a slice of sky and a row of shuttle buses coming and going. There are forms to fill, calls to return, but her mind drifts, heavy and slow. Ranger lies on the cool floor, half asleep, his chest rising and falling with deep, steady breaths. Sometimes a traveler knocks, lost or frightened, and Lauren rises, the badge heavy at her hip, offering directions, a word of comfort, the gentle confidence of someone who has seen the worst and not turned away. Every so often, a memory catches her off guard. A girl's small hand in her own, a boy's smile pressed into Ranger's fur. The whispered question, "Will he come with us?" It is these small moments that linger, louder than sirens, sharper than fear. Lauren wonders if the children are safe now, what they see outside the window of a new house, what they dream about when sleep finally finds them. She finds herself tracing the fold in the little girl's drawing, smoothing it flat. In the center, Ranger with his cape, children clinging to his back, the sun bright and impossible. There is something in the picture, a trust, a wild hope that refuses to be erased. Lauren pins it to the corkboard above her desk, a silent promise that what happened in the dark is not lost in the light. A caseworker calls, voice low and grateful. The children made it to their foster home. The little one carries her fire truck everywhere. The boy sleeps curled around the blue ribbon, refuses to let anyone wash it from his hand. "You should know," the caseworker says. "They talk about you, about the dog, mostly. They said he waited with them all night, never moved. They said that's how they knew it was over." Lauren thanks her, her throat tight. She wishes she could explain how much she needed to hear it, how easy it is to forget, in the rush of work and fatigue, that any of it matters. Afternoon drifts into evening. Ranger wakes, stretches, pads over to rest his chin on Lauren's knee. She scratches behind his ear, feeling the smooth warmth of his coat, the steady beat of his heart. He looks up at her, amber eyes reflecting the fading sun, and for a moment, the world narrows to just the two of them. a kind of quiet she cannot find anywhere else. A new call comes in. A lost child at baggage claim, 7 years old, sobbing by a row of carts. Lauren and Ranger answer, weaving through crowds, the dog moving like a shadow at her side. The little boy, cheeks blotchy, fists clenched, looks up when he sees them. Ranger approaches, sits, tail sweeping the floor in slow, careful arcs. The boy's breathing slows. He clings to Ranger's neck until his mother arrives, tears drying into a smile. She thanks Lauren, but it's Ranger who holds the boy's trust. They return to the office, and Lauren lets Ranger drink from her water bottle, watches him lick the rim, perfectly content. The night settles in, bringing with it a hush. Across the hall, 2 janitors share a quiet laugh. Somewhere a radio plays old country music, low and scratchy. Lauren sits with the weight of what has been left behind. The calls she cannot answer, the cases that have no resolution, the faces she will never see again. But she also holds the moments that did not vanish. The drawing, the blue ribbon, the warmth of a child pressed close to a tired dog. She wonders if the children, wherever they are, will remember the sound of Ranger's breath, the safety in a stranger's hands, the way hope can flicker even in the darkest place. She hopes so. She needs to believe that every act of kindness leaves a mark, even if no one sees it but the ones who needed it most. Before heading home, Lauren writes a note for the morning shift. Nothing about last night, only a reminder to check the lost and found for children's treasures, to leave a bowl of water for Ranger, to be gentle with the lost. The airport glows in the darkness, planes coming and going, the world moving on. Lauren stands for a long time by the window, Ranger pressed against her side, watching the city lights flicker beyond the glass. There will be more nights. There will always be more lost and found. But tonight, the memory of small hands, blue ribbon, and a dog who did not leave, even when the world said run, are enough to keep her heart steady. There is a softness to the city before dawn, a kind of forgiveness that lingers in the hush between streetlights and sunrise. Lauren parks her car at the edge of her apartment complex. Rain still beating on the windshield, the distant glow of the airport visible over the rooftops. Ranger, tired but patient, waits as she gathers her bag, her badge, the folded drawing now creased at the corners from being handled so many times. Inside, the apartment is quiet. Shadows spill across the floor, familiar and unthreatening. Lauren turns on a lamp, its amber glow banishing just enough of the darkness to make the room feel whole. She hangs her jacket, sets her keys in their bowl, sits on the worn couch with Ranger's head resting on her lap. She does not cry. Not really. She just lets the silence pool around her, breathing in the absence of alarms, of radio static, of other people's fear. For a while, it is enough to know she did not run from what needed doing. Ranger shifts, his weight grounding her, his breath a rhythm she can match. Lauren runs a hand over his ears, feels the burr of the blue ribbon still tied at the nape of his neck. She lets her mind wander, back to the children, their faces etched in memory, to the grandfather waiting at the curb, to the girl's drawing and the wish written into every line. She thinks of all the times she has stood alone in the kitchen, morning sun just beginning to warm the walls, wondering if anyone will ever know the things that truly matter. The little kindnesses, the silences kept, the way someone's hope can change you, even if they never come back. The world outside stirs, but Lauren is still. Her phone lights up, a text from the detective with silver hair, just 3 words. They're safe now. There are no details. She does not need them. The comfort is in the brevity, in the quiet confirmation that what was done last night did not disappear with the dark. The things never spoken, the worries she carries, the helplessness that sometimes catches her off guard, the way she needs Ranger's company more than anyone else's, remain unshared. But they are present, woven into the way she moves, the gentleness in her voice, the care with which she braids her hair, the stillness that Ranger always finds beside her. Later, as the sun rises, Lauren prepares food for Ranger, fills her own mug with coffee, stands at the window as city life returns. Buses rumbling, neighbors hurrying, the distant wail of a siren. She wonders if the children are waking now, if they are safe, if they are frightened in a new place or already daring to dream of something gentler. She does not know what will become of them. She only knows that, for one night, she did not turn away. For one night, she stayed until the end. For one night, she offered the steadiness she once needed. Quiet, constant, certain. There is a lesson in this, though Lauren does not say it aloud, that no rescue is ever complete, no wound ever fully healed, no goodbye ever truly final. What matters is not the certainty of safety, but the willingness to stand beside the frightened, the lost, the waiting. What matters is the promise that someone will listen, someone will stay, even if only for a while. When Ranger finishes his breakfast, he settles by her feet, sighing contentedly. Lauren sits with her coffee, the drawing propped up on the table, sunlight glancing across its paper surface. She touches the blue crayon, the arc of a cape, the hopeful stick-figure children, all the things she cannot say written there, bright and indelible. As the day unfolds, Lauren will step back into her uniform, will answer new calls, will sit with new stories. The world will keep spinning, loss and hope braided together in the city's pulse. But she will remember, always, the weight of a small hand in her own, the trust given without words, the presence of a good dog on a long night. And if someday, years from now, a child's voice on the other end of a call asks, "Do you remember me?" she will say yes. Always yes. The city's morning arrives with slow assurance. Sunlight filters in through Lauren's kitchen blinds, catching in the steam of her coffee, painting golden lines across Ranger's broad back. He lies by the door, ears flicking at the sounds of life returning, neighbors unlocking cars, children laughing as they race down the walk, the low hum of a city in motion. Lauren stands in the center of it, letting the light touch her. She moves quietly, tending to small tasks, rinsing dishes, folding the blanket Ranger slept on, tucking the girl's drawing into a new frame she's found at the thrift store. Each gesture is a reminder, a way to hold on to the parts of the night that mattered most. She leaves her badge on the counter just for a minute, letting herself be ordinary. In the quiet, she remembers her own childhood mornings, how rare it was to wake without fear, how precious the feeling of safety can be when it's new. She thinks of the children, scattered now to different homes, their lives rethreaded by strangers' care. She wonders if they too have sunlight on their faces, a dog's warmth close by, the certainty that someone, somewhere, has not forgotten. Mid-morning brings a knock at the door, a courier in a blue jacket, holding out a yellow envelope. Lauren signs her name and closes the door with a soft click. She sits at the kitchen table and opens the package. Inside, a thank you card, a crayon drawing, and a note in uneven handwriting. The card is from the Foster family. The girl's drawing shows 3 stick figures and a brown dog with a blue ribbon in his fur, all beneath a bright, smiling sun. The note is simple. Thank you for finding us. We are safe. I sleep with the ribbon every night. I hope Ranger is happy. Love, M. Lauren's eyes fill, but she does not cry. Instead, she places the new drawing beside the first. She sits with the memory, letting it settle deep and true. She does not need more. The children's survival, their small, stubborn hope, is enough. Ranger comes to sit at her feet. She scratches his chest, feeling the solid thump of his tail on the floor. We did good, she murmurs. That's enough for today. Outside, the city is moving fast, but inside their little home, time slows. Lauren lets herself rest, leaning against the quiet strength of her dog. She knows the work is never finished, that pain does not vanish just because the night has ended. But she also knows, now, more than ever, that sometimes all that's needed is to stay, to witness, to offer warmth in a world that often forgets the value of a soft voice, a steady hand, a promise kept in the dark. As the sun climbs higher, Lauren readies herself for another shift. She pulls on her uniform, pins her badge to her chest, and slips the second drawing into her jacket pocket. It is a talisman, proof that kindness matters, that even in a world of endings, something gentle survives. She and Ranger head out, pausing at the door. For a moment, Lauren looks back at the framed drawings, at the light pooled across the table, at the dog who has been her anchor through every storm. Ready, partner? She whispers. Ranger lifts his head, stands, and together they step into the morning. Out in the city, a siren rises. A new day, a new beginning. Lauren does not know what stories will find her next. She only knows that she will meet them as she always has. With patience, with resolve, with the quiet certainty that even on the hardest nights, no one should be left alone in the dark. In the hush that follows, as sunlight glints off Ranger's fur and the world opens before them, Lauren finds the smallest kind of peace, the kind that comes not from victory, but from endurance, from bearing witness, from choosing again and again not to look away. It is enough.